Well, hey, everybody. Happy Saturday. Happy Mother's Day weekend. Happy NBA playoff weekend. Just happy every darn thing. Happy that it's warm. Hey, look, folks, this is House Talk Pregame. I am licensed marriage and family therapist, Dr. Lauren Pitts Bounds. Who's that?
And I am licensed professional counselor Ronnie Ransome Jr., which is funny.
Mm.
Next Sunday will be a year since I've officially been licensed.
See how
So
fast time goes?
it's crazy. You know what? I was telling some individuals like, um I feel like I'm a really good counselor, but a novice therapist. I've learned a lot
I
in this
rebuked
first.
that when he said that to me. I was like, stop
I
playing.
don't say I don't I don't say that to I don't say that to like dismiss my abilities. Like I'm I'm confident in what I do for what I know now. But just
But you
like
got to tell them what the difference is. Tell them why you feel that way and what the difference is between your counseling skills and your therapeutic skills. Because they were like, well, I thought it was the same thing. People think it's the same thing.
nah, so you're right. Nah. So when I say that there's a difference between counseling and therapy. So counseling is like coming in for like just everyday like trials, tribulations, trivial things, transitions, like kind of the fork in the road moments, things like that. Like things
Mm-hmm.
where it's like maybe, for example, maybe a job change, relationship change,
Mm-hmm.
addition to the family, leaving
Mm-hmm.
family, like things like that, where it's like, you come in, bounce off ideas, hear perspectives, weigh pros and
Mm-hmm.
cons, and at the end of the day, empowering you to make the best choice for you. That's in a
Mm-hmm.
nutshell counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy is about healing and change. Therapy is about understanding that the pain, the hurt that you've experienced up until that specific point, you are ready to make change in that. You are ready to heal some of those things. And
Transformation.
that's a different process.
Yeah.
The healing process and the counseling process are two different processes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and as far as my skill set from the healing process standpoint, in this first year of being licensed, I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot, and I'm super excited for the second year and everything.
I think
I
he's being modest, folks. I think that he is underrating himself considerably. I don't think that he gives himself enough credit, but it's okay.
well, I appreciate that.
For real, I'm
I've been
dead serious. Well,
fortunate
you
enough.
already know when we do treatment team, I'm like, Ronnie, Ronnie.
I definitely have been fortunate enough to be surrounded by some colleagues that are absolute geniuses in the therapy
Mm-hmm.
world. I'm forever grateful for that because I know I'm not the smartest in the room, but I'm glad to be surrounded by like-minded individuals who are far more intelligent and smarter than
Yeah,
me, especially in the therapy game.
yeah,
But don't mind allowing me to express my perspective to get their insight and things like that.
indeed.
Forever grateful for the team that I work with and everything.
Mm-hmm.
For the help and support they've given me over the last 3 years because they are
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal people.
Mm-hmm.
I say I had the honor to be up under somebody who really takes therapy as serious as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So forever grateful for that. But anywho, happy Mother's Day weekend to all the mothers out there. Happy early Mother's Day to you, Dr. Pitts, the mother
Thank
of the show
you.
and everything.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I would imagine being a mother for the last 30 plus years has been an absolutely rewarding experience for you and everything out of
Oh
all
my
the things you've
God.
accomplished in your life.
Yeah.
I'm sure your son would echo the same sentiment and everything, and
Yeah.
probably to the umpteenth level of
Yeah.
how appreciative he is of having you as his mother and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just watching you even into this chapter of your life, still out
Yeah.
there achieving goals, setting new goals, achieving
Yeah.
things. It's an inspiration for all of us who get to be in your life and watch you and everything. So happy early
Oh,
Mother's Day to you.
thank
Happy
you.
Mother's Day
Thank
to
you.
all the mothers out there. Happy early Mother's Day to my wife. And happy early birthday to her as well.
Yay, Mrs. Ransom.
She's walking into the 30-30 club on Thursday. I told her I
Nice.
got the section already ready for her popping and everything. Got the
Ronnie,
box.
you never told me that Mrs. Ransom's birthday was May 16th.
Yeah, I thought I told you that.
Ronnie, that's my son's birthday. You literally never told me that.
Oh, snap.
Andre's birthday.
Yeah.
Andre will be 36 on Thursday, May the 16th. He was born at 8:35 in the morning. So that's
Oh
I
wow.
always
Oh wow.
wake him
Yeah,
up.
early.
Look, I always wake him up. I'm like, hey, happy birthday. He's like,
Dang.
you
Have we
literally
talked about that
told me
before?
that. never
When
told
have
me
I
that.
talked
That's
about that
why she's
before?
such a beautiful soul. Her and my baby have the same birthday. They're Tauruses. Ugh. Ugh.
They have a soul for sure.
Yes,
I don't know.
indeed.
I don't know how to put that adjective in front of soul for Tauruses. Because you know how like when you look at zodiacs, the signs look a little interesting and everything. Like as an
Hmm.
Aquarius, I look like a water sign, but it's really air. So I like to float and breeze it. Oh, we're not talking. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. My fault. She said we're not about to talk about Tauruses, but I'm gonna keep talking. Because they are their sign. They are a bull.
Indeed.
Bullheaded, stubborn, bullish, like all those things,
All of that.
all of those things. But shout out to my wife and Andre for their
Yes,
upcoming birthdays and everything.
indeed.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful time. We're actually going to Myrtle Beach for her birthday. So
Nice, 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 nice.
yeah, yeah, and I got some things
That's
lined up
a,
for her tomorrow too to celebrate Mother's Day.
okay.
You know,
Good stuff. Now,
I
y'all going
have
to
that. I
Myrtle
know
Beach
she
with the babies or without the babies?
with the babies.
Okay, so it's a family trip.
It's a
It's a
family trip.
family affair.
Yeah, kill two birds with one stone.
Okay,
Got to, because
okay.
unfortunately, baby girl not old enough yet to be
Yeah,
left by herself yet.
yeah, yeah.
But next year this time I told Nick, I was like, at 31 though, 31 be different.
That's it. Shoot,
We
look, we'll be FaceTiming to say, hi, baby. You
right.
having fun with my mom?
Yeah, we gonna leave both of them for 31 for sure.
There it is.
But yeah,
Indeed,
no,
I
shout
love
out
it.
to them. Shout out to all the mothers and everything. It's a beautiful
Yes.
weekend out here. The temperatures have finally dropped because it's been disrespectful out here the last week and a half. The pollen has been absolutely atrocious around here. Like
Say it.
my goodness.
And it's been
Like
really, really humid here. Like literally, like the humidity has been strangling you. It's the air has been
yeah,
so thick. It's like, oh my gosh.
we haven't gotten too much of the humidity yet, but the pollen
Mm-hmm. It's been ridiculous.
trifling.
Eyes itching, throat itching. I had
Yeah,
family here for several days that came last week. Actually, they just left on Tuesday. And that was what my cousin and my best friend were like, yo, her allergies were, she didn't bring her prescribed allergy medicine because she didn't think that she was going to need it. And her allergies were setting her in a fit the whole time they were here because it's just everything. And we have, I want to say they're cypress trees. They're
oh yeah.
the
They got
cypress
kind of like that
trees
that
here
they
will
they
make
put
you
off a
want to
little
tear
bit
your
more
head off.
pollen. Yeah, because those trees
It's
get pretty big, right?
yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts what you go through here with cypress, and so it's just like okay, come prepared.
All my
Indeed.
allergy heads out there, go to Vitamin
Mm-hmm.
Shop or get you some black seed oil, some oil of
Mm-hmm.
oregano.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it'll help. I promise you, it'll help.
Indeed.
I'm not Dr. Sebi, but I know a little thing or two about allergies. All right. So
Right. Right.
with
Right.
that
Right.
being said, we got a great topic lined up for you all today. Dr. Biz, can you believe we only got 4 shows left for the season,
You know,
including
I
today?
do believe it, and I thought about it yesterday, and I was like, we're almost done for this. Time flies. Time
Yeah.
really, 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 really flies. We have as far as the remaining shows, we've got some great topics lined up. But with
Mhm.
the exception of one show, Courtney Mendenhall will be back with us for one of those shows. But the rest of the season, it's just me and you, which I'm
Right.
totally okay with because we were loaded. We were
Yeah.
loaded, loaded, loaded with guests this season. And it was just, I mean, folk were just coming guns blazing. And I'm
Had a
like,
really good
okay,
season.
okay. So we're sort of like, we're coming in for the landing.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
coming in for the
Absolutely.
landing, and it's like, it's okay. So yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah. So we got a great show lineup for everybody today. We're talking about social lives, right? With our athletes, for anybody who's ever played collegiate sports, I've never played
Mhm,
professional sports, but I know quite a few people who have. But anybody who's
mhm,
ever played collegiate sports or maybe at like a high level high school and
mhm,
whatnot, you understand that during the season, 95% of your time is occupied with that said sport. And
mhm,
being also in school, the other 5% of that time is typically filled with academics and everything. So,
mhm,
how do you have a social life? How do you have a life outside of just being the student athlete that most people see you as
mhm,
95% of the time? And for
mhm.
those who do try to find that balance of being a student athlete and having a social life, what are some of the dangers and things you should be mindful of to
Mm-hmm.
avoid having your social life possibly end or take your student athlete life. Because we've seen
Mm-hmm.
that happen before too, where some of our athletes' social lives can sometimes be too big or even sometimes become the main focus for them, and they lose focus in sight of their student athlete life. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes because of that social life becomes so big and so important to them, sometimes they make mistakes in that social life that cost them that athletic life, and sometimes cost them their academic life too, especially in collegiate ranks. So when we talk about some of those things, um, parents of student athletes and things like that, what are some things that we can give you all today to help you better talk to your kids about social media, social lives, friends, things like that, all those good things. So we're definitely going to get into some of those things today and whatnot. Um, did you hear about your alumni school, FAMU, getting the $250 million
I
donation?
did. I did. And I screamed out. I was like, yes, this
the
is
single the
phenomenal.
single largest donation in HBCU history.
Yes.
Independent donor, not
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
he was alumni of the school or anything to my
Mm-mm.
knowledge.
Yep.
But he felt
Call to
extremely
action and
generous.
came through.
He felt extremely generous. There's been some people have been asking questions about what are some of the caveats of this donation. Because I
Hmm.
mean, let's be real. We all know that anytime somebody makes a donation of any kind, especially quarter billion
That
dollar
type of
donation.
money. Right.
He basically gave them a donation that's double their endowment fund.
Right.
And for those who don't know what an endowment fund is, an endowment fund for schools is basically like an emergency savings,
Hmm.
which FAMU has reported about 121 million in their endowment fund, and he
Hmm.
cut them a check for I think 252 million.
I forget what the exact number was, and I
It was either like
screenshotted it.
252 or
It was a
262.
it was a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Big old chunk of money.
A lot of money that could, I mean, really change the landscape of
Yeah,
FAMU for generations to come.
absolutely.
We've talked about before the severe lack of funding for state-run HBCUs and everything.
Hmm.
You talk about the schools in North Carolina and Mississippi, down in Florida,
Hmm.
where when the states don't allocate any money from the education budget to those
Hmm.
schools heavily rely on donors, alumni, and things like that to close that gap. And we just know, unfortunately, at HBCUs, that's not always the case where alumni and donors can close those gaps for
Right.
yearly adjusted living costs, inflation,
Right.
tuition, things like that. But some of these other schools and institutions, they get not only state money, but they also get donor money and alumni money. So
Right. Right.
um, this is huge for FAMU. And so I'm very interested to see over the coming weeks and months, I guess, how they allocate this money.
Right. Right.
Um, Once again, like the dude who donated it, he came out and put out a statement, I think Wednesday or Thursday, basically
Hmm.
saying, I'm not understanding why there's all this speculation about my donation. There's no strings attached. I
Yeah.
love HBCUs. I love
Right.
FAMU, and have at it.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see. You
People.
know,
People were suspect.
people say anything. We're follow like they always say, follow the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Well,
mean,
hopefully, hopefully it
can you
to
imagine being
remain
the accountant at
optimistic.
FAMU?
Huh?
Sitting there, can you imagine being the accountant at FAMU, sitting at graduation, and this dude walk up there, here's 250 some million.
And
What?
just faint. Just fainted away. You're like, did she just faint? What is happening? What is going on right now?
You want me to budget? What?
Right, right.
Like this is like probably like 30% of Florida's budget.
And you would think that just my perspective, not that it amounts to anything, but you would think that as a precautionary measure, additional checks and balances would be put in place to make sure that there's never even an opportunity for misappropriation of funds.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because because look, the reality of it is temptation, right? We know
Oh
temptation is a
yeah.
real thing. Um, so I would
We've seen
hope,
HBCUs finesse money with less.
Look, can I just tell you, Ronnie, we've seen that at the high school level. There's how do I want to say this, PC? So there were some question marks. One of the wealthy members of our community at home in my hometown, one of the wealthy members of our community, when they passed away, left a very, very, very large um, gift for our school district. And that I don't know if it's been resolved because I don't follow it, but there was a it was a thing. It was a major thing that ended up having to go to court in the whole 9 yards because there were some major questions regarding whether or not those funds were being allocated based upon the way that it was laid out um, in the gift. The the high school in my hometown, last I knew, don't know because I haven't followed up on it, but last I was aware, was the only high school in the entire county that had an international baccalaureate program, which, anybody that knows anything about IB programs, that it's a big deal
Right.
because you can go into high school with college credits and what have you, and it's an amazing accomplishment. And from what I understand about the gift, there was verbiage in the requirements associated with the gift that said that there were certain amounts of funds that needed to be appropriately allocated to maintain that program and to make sure that the appropriate educators were teaching it and so on and so forth. And it ended up getting messy and ended up getting really, really messy. And I believe too often times when it comes to large sums of money, that there's always the potential for that to happen and to be
Right.
problematic. And
Absolutely.
it's not fair to the students and it's not fair to the person that thought enough of the receiver, to make a mockery of the gift. So I hope that folk do what they're supposed to do and it doesn't come back to bite anybody in the behind. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right. Yeah. No,
That
I
part.
hope so. Because
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's about paying it forward and helping the people that are there now.
absolutely.
Right. So, before we get started in the topic, real quick, Dr. Pitts, I do have a mental health tip of the week.
Okay.
Well, I guess mental health tip of the month since May is also Mental Health
Yeah,
Awareness Month and everything.
yeah, yeah.
So I got a tip. Amanda, if you're listening, I would love for you to clip this and post it because I think this is going to help a lot of people today. I would like to think. It's a
Mhm.
very simple tip, right? I'm going to talk about curiosity and skepticism, right?
Okay.
So a lot of times, through our lives, we go through certain experiences, right? And I've
Hmm.
said before, one of my favorite quotes that was ever given to me was given to by you, Dr. Pitts.
Hmm.
Situations are meaningless until we give them meaning,
Hmm.
right? And at some points in our life, we give certain situations a bad meaning
Hmm.
because the experience we went through, the things that happened to us in that moment, we deem as a bad experience, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the thing about bad experiences for us is our bodies are really like supercomputers, right?
Hmm.
Bodies at every moment, 24/7, 365, and on this year, 366. They record data and observe things in real time all the time, right?
Hmm.
And our body is scanning our surroundings, scanning our external environment, looking for
Hmm.
things, searching for things that could possibly remind us of past bad experiences, danger, harm, whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
And in some instances, that happens. Our body detects a certain stimuli that reminds us of a past bad experience.
Hmm.
And in some moments, Dr. Pitts, sometimes that past part of us that experienced that bad thing can sometimes hijack us in the present moment and serve as a bodyguard, serve as a martyr, or even sometimes serve as a firefighter for us, right?
Hmm.
And when that happens, what it really does is that it doesn't allow us in that present moment to handle that situation and assess that situation for what it is. In
Okay.
other words, when we approach situations with skepticism, we kind of foreshadow, we kind of guess, we make assumptions. This feels familiar. This reminds me of something. Should I be worried?
Triggering something.
Is there danger here? Am
Hmm.
I safe? And in some situations, depending on what the past bad experience is, we don't give our present self enough time to fully assess it before we decide that, you know what? Now there's danger here.
Hmm.
And so I encourage anybody out there who's listening today to allow your present self to approach situations with curiosity. When we allow our present self to approach situations with curiosity. What we do is we allow our present self to fully observe and be in that moment. One of the things that we try to work with clients and individuals when we talk about mindfulness is really being where your feet are. Give your
Mhm.
present self the chance to make a choice, make a decision, do something, say something, be something for you in that present moment. For some of us out there who deal with trauma, struggle with past traumas or abuse or neglect and things like that, sometimes that past version of us protect a present situation that reminds us of that past version of us that felt powerless, felt they didn't have a voice, felt not validated. Nobody heard them, nobody protected them or kept them safe. So they see this moment, this present moment, as an opportunity to not only right the wrong of the past, but also right this wrong in this present moment. And what we do is that we allow sometimes that past version, and that past version could be an 8-year-old version of us, a 9-year-old version of us. And I say to people, imagine your 8 or 9-year-old self trying to drive a car.
Mhm.
You can drive, you can get behind the steering wheel, you can probably get it and drive and go somewhere. But are you going to make it to where you're really trying to get to? Are you going to be safe? Are you going to make the best choices? Or are you just going to do whatever comes to mind? And sometimes that's exactly what happens when we allow our past self to make a present moment decision. So, my mental health tip of the month for everybody is that when you find yourself in present situations, before you allow the skeptic in you, the bodyguard in you, the martyr in you to hijack you in that present moment and make a decision for you, thinking that they're making you safe, thinking that they're protecting you, thinking they're creating security for you, allow this present version of you, whatever that version looks like, whether you feel like it's the whole version of you, three-fourths of you, half of you, allow the present version of you to experience that moment for what it is and allow your present you to make a decision in that moment that could possibly let the past know that I am safe, I am secure in this moment, and I don't need you to come and help me in this moment. So that's my mental health tip of the month this week. Do you want to piggyback or add anything to that, Dr.
I do
Pitts?
want to piggyback because that's why I grabbed it. Because fast. Let me write this thought down before I forget. When you were talking about that, and you said the magic word decision, it made me remember a conversation that I was having a couple of days ago when when I asked when I asked someone if they know the difference between choices and decisions. And the client that I asked that, they got it right. And I said, well, when you talk about decisions, decisions are final, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas choices convey to you that you have options. So when you're talking about the skepticism piece and the whole 9 yards, rather than rather than, you know, not proceeding because of fear or whatever the case may be, you are now faced with the choice of saying, hey, this could be that, but it could be something else. There's a
Mm-hmm.
50-50 chance here. And to your point, I think that what a lot of people do is they allow the fear and the pain to blur their vision, to blur their perspective, to blur their interpretation. And oftentimes, what ends up happening is they start to have this love affair with their cognitive distortions that hinder their ability to remain objective and to proceed. You can proceed with caution, but like you said, I love that word curiosity because how many people have missed out on some extraordinary opportunities in their life because they were skeptic, because they were pessimistic, because they wouldn't even give themselves permission to entertain the possibilities that this thing that they're seeing as a trigger might not actually be a trigger at all. It
Right.
it it's the illusion because of the meaning, because of the
Right.
meaning that you give to the experience, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
Um, what I tell my clients all the time, Ronnie, is, particularly when I'm working with couples, for example, or working with individuals around couples issues. And what I say to them is, my job is not to convince you to stay or to leave.
Right.
As a couple marriage and family therapist, I'm elated when people are in healthy, loving, fulfilling, and sustainable relationships. I love it. That's part of the reason why I do this work, because I want particularly us as people of color, I want our nuclear families to be healthy,
Right.
right? And I want to be a part of the solution to making that people's reality. But what I found is that people, and we talk about it all the time, people are making these decisions, Ronnie, based on fear, based on triggers, based on skepticism, based on pessimism, and they don't even give themselves permission to entertain the possibilities of more and different and better.
Right.
They're so afraid that it's going to be what it's always been, that they don't even realize that they're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy that oftentimes looks exactly like the very thing that they're afraid they're going to experience.
Right.
So yeah, so that part.
Thank you for piggybacking on that. Yeah,
Yep,
no,
yep.
I felt that, and even when I say that, it's also a reminder to myself too. Because
Mm-hmm,
we all fall victim to a
mm-hmm.
past part of us taking over a present moment,
Oh,
right?
oh gosh,
Because
yeah.
sometimes that past part could be that kid in us who didn't
Mm-hmm.
have representation, didn't
Right.
have a voice, didn't feel like they had options to get out of this situation.
Yeah.
And for most
Yeah.
kids, you don't. And I'm not going to go into a whole soliloquy on that because that's not what we're talking about today.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you want to talk more about that, you can find me or Dr. Pitts on Psychology Today, and we can talk more about that with you. Um,
Ronnie, what? That is so crazy that you just said that. I literally canceled my Psychology Today membership yesterday.
well, you can go on www.drlaurenpitts.com and schedule a consultation or an appointment with Dr. Pitts. Because Psychology Today, obviously, I just learned a hack about Psychology Today that I'm gonna try.
Hmm. Hmm.
Where they say like where you put your name at and everything. Like
Hmm.
they say put like one of your like main, how to actually like what your main issues that you cover are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently, they say if you put your main issue that you cover
Hmm.
in your like where your name is, so like
Hmm.
for example, for me, I do men's issues,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
would be like men's issue Ronnie Darcel Ransom Jr.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently, that's like when people search for like men's issues, it's like a
It
way to
go
make your
boom.
like profile like pop up quicker.
Hmm.
So
Well,
I'm gonna try that
the
out.
reason why I closed it is because Ronnie, as we can only take but so many clients. We can only
Right.
take but so many clients, and I'm like, I do not particularly, and you know this, Ronnie, because it's the same thing as applicable to you. When we take insurance, every insurance company that we're paneled with, we're in those directories. We
Yeah.
are in those directories. The platforms that we use to provide telehealth, we're in their directories. The word of mouth is huge
Right.
in our line of work. I don't have a shortage of clients. And then because Amanda is so amazing at plastering our face and our reels everywhere, I am convinced that people know who Ronnie Ransom and Dr. Lauren Pitts are. I don't have to keep spending in the
Right.
beginning, but this is not the beginning no more. I don't have a problem with people finding me. So I'm like, I don't have to, and don't get me wrong, Psychology Today is amazing. It is
Right.
absolutely positively an amazing platform to help clinicians get visibility and to help clinicians get clients that match their skill set. But I don't have any issues getting clients. I'm about to
Right.
have to create a waiting list, Ronnie. So I'm like,
Same here.
yeah, so
Same
we're
here. I'm
blessed.
almost on
We're
I'm
blessed.
almost on
We're
wait list
blessed.
level too because I literally just don't have the space to take, especially like in person. Like people want to do in person. I'm just like,
Right.
I'm booked. But
Yeah.
anywho,
Yep, yep.
so
Let's talk about socializing. I got something I want to
social.
start off with as soon as you say it.
Oh, well, you take the lead. Go ahead. You got it.
Ronnie. So how I don't believe in irony. I think that it is just very, very fitting because my husband, did I tell you that Eric says that I need a support group because he said I got a football addiction? He was like, babe. He was like, babe, How
I
is not
well,
football
I wouldn't say
season?
you need a support group for football
Shut
addiction. I
up,
can tell you
shut
what you
up.
really need a
Don't,
support
you've
group
been nice
for,
so
and
far. Shut up.
I'm pretty sure you have a wait list for that too.
Don't do that. Anyway, so I do. Football is my life. Like whenever I'm not in session, if I'm home, whatever. But anyway, the football life for Michael Vick was on again last night. And I
Ooh,
watch like every time it comes on, I watch it again. And one of his teammates from the Falcons was talking about, they were talking about the level of maturity that he didn't have back then. And one of the players in particular, I forget the guy's name, but he was talking about like he had such a tremendous amount of respect for Mike. And it was like, I love his skill to hold 9 yards. He said, and I kept waiting for him to mature. He was like, and then it didn't happen. And the fall came. And one of the other players was saying how when it came, like a lot of players, they hang out together, they do things, their families are
right,
connected to 9 yards. They were like, he wasn't going out to dinner with us, he wasn't hanging out with us, like we weren't coming to his house to do stuff, he wasn't coming to our house to do stuff. When we weren't on the clock, he was going back to Virginia. And that was something that, I'm sure you've seen it, that was something that he was saying, is that I should have spent more time in Atlanta. I should have spent more time in the film room. I should have spent more time building that camaraderie, socializing and interacting and really getting to know my teammates on a much deeper, intimate level. I'm paraphrasing, but in essence, that's what
right,
he was saying.
yeah,
And I was like, that's what we're talking about tomorrow. And looking at how the choices that he made as it related to how he was socializing and engaging in recreational activities caused the downfall of his career initially, right? And then fast
fair.
forward, and I know you heard about this. This young man that grew up the street from my
Oh,
house,
Mr.
he's in
Rice.
trouble again, right?
Oh, Mr. Rice,
Yeah,
Mr. Can't get right.
you know he's in trouble again, right?
What?
Because during his socialization and recreational time, he's at a bar in Dallas and he hauls off and punches somebody. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I think that's a good place to start, because the relationship between maturity,
Fair.
socialization, and oh, by the way, mental health, because there are some who would suggest that some of the decisions that our athletes are making, whether they're at the high school, collegiate, or professional level, as it relates to their socialization, their choices make you question whether or not they have a mental health issue. Even in, we've talked about it on previous shows, even some of the social media videos and stuff that have come up of high school athletes assaulting females at parties that are passed out, like craziness. Something
Mhm.
wrong with y'all. Something wrong.
So to kind of piggyback on the Michael Vick situation. So being from Virginia, like Michael Vick growing up for me was like the Michael Vick experience, I would imagine was unreal in Atlanta, but to be from Virginia
Yeah,
and like I was a Virginia Tech fan too. So like I was just old enough to like remember him at Virginia Tech before he got drafted, to
yeah,
Atlanta. Michael Vick was our AI in that time because AI
yeah,
had was really popular when he
yep,
was in high school. Had the
yep,
incident, went to Georgetown, got to Philly, cool. But
right.
Michael Vick
Didn't
was
they grow
like
up in the same housing project or something like that?
relatively close. They're both from
Yeah.
Newport News, and
Okay,
for those
but
who
in close
those who are not,
proximity, they grew.
yeah.
Yeah,
So for those who are not familiar with Virginia, let alone the 757, let alone Newport News of for Virginia, Newport News is not a great area,
yeah,
and that's putting it very nicely. Like present day Newport News, still not a great place to be at a lot of times. Um, and so the reason I say that, and once again, so I always tell people there's a difference between insight and excuses, right?
mm,
Insight is giving you understanding to somebody's decisions. Excuses is allowing somebody to make those decisions regardless of knowing the consequences. That's an
yeah,
excuse. Like,
yeah,
so I'm providing insight here. So Michael Vick comes from a not so great area, right?
Right.
Ton of athletic, ton of talent, but not a lot of great direction, not a lot of great leadership, not a
Yeah.
lot of great camaraderie, teamwork, unity, things like that. One of the few things that people relate to, especially down in the 757, is sports.
Right.
Sports is, I
Mm-hmm.
would say the 757 Virginia, which is like the eastern part where like the beach and everything is of Virginia, for those who
Mm-hmm.
are not understanding what I'm talking about.
He's talking
That
about
part,
the area code, folks.
the area code, yeah. That part of Virginia is like what we would consider to be like how Texas, the entire state, takes football and sports.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
in the 757, sports is as close to
It's a
religion and
religion.
family. Yeah, it's as
Yeah.
close down there as possible. So sports are taken very seriously down there. Generational talent, right?
Yeah.
To your point, and I always tell people this, think about it like this: we were all young before, we were
Yeah.
all irresponsible at that young age.
Mm-hmm.
What we most of us did not have was a specific talent that we had make us an
Right.
overnight millionaire
Right.
and at the age of 20. I think Michael Vick was 20, maybe 21 when he got drafted. I think he
And
was
he was young.
at the time I think he was the youngest player to be drafted in NFL history
Mm-hmm.
at the NFL at that time. And then he's given, X amount of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But what he's not given is instant guidance, instant direction, instant
Right.
emotional regulation skills. Because once again, he comes from an environment where trust is everything.
Right.
Can I trust you? Will you have
Right.
my back? Will you backdoor me? Will you,
Right.
put me in a bad situation? Right. So you get thrusted into a whole new environment, right? Down in Atlanta, right? You get all this money. Everybody come out the woodworks, want something from you and things like that. So once
Right.
again, I'm not justifying the actions, but it makes
No.
complete sense that when he has free time, you go back to where you're comfortable at. Even
And
if
that's what he
that's
said.
yeah,
That's what he said. Like that was his familiar place.
right. And so now, Mr. Rice, because it's funny. I've said before, I have a group chat with about 20 of my teammates from college and everything. And so we saw the article. It came out about him punching a photographer. And I think that was like Monday or Tuesday it came out and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my teammates comes from a not so great area, was
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, hey, he young. He just won a Super Bowl. He got like I think he was like played an integral part in the Super Bowl in the
Mm-hmm.
season and everything. Got a lot of money and everything. He young. I mean, it's understandable. Some of my other teammates are like, that's BS, bro. Like you in the NFL now. You can't keep doing that stuff anymore. That's not an excuse anymore. And so I understand both sides,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we've seen time and time again. We've seen countless young men, young women become professional athletes, reach a level of success early, get flooded with attention, flooded with
Right.
money, flooded with opportunities.
Right.
I don't think I think for us because we're not experiencing that ourselves, it's always kind of hard to necessarily understand that perspective unless you're necessarily in it. I haven't been flooded with millions of dollars overnight or hundreds of thousands of dollars overnight. I haven't been flooded with the attention of the world overnight, just being a part of something, whether or not my participation was huge. Like he's not Patrick Mahomes' influence on the Kansas City Chiefs, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a Kansas City Chiefs. They just won the Super Bowl. You're gonna have people look at you just because you're associated with it. And
Mm-hmm.
we know as much as we talk about drugs and substances, one of the top three substances in the world is attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hell of a drug.
Ronnie, you know what I think it is? I don't even think that it's like I do think that something is wrong. That obviously that's my clinical brain, but on a from a much simpler perspective, and I'm saying this based upon the wealthy people that I have relationships with in comparison to people that I have relationships with that are from other socioeconomic statuses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really truly believe, and people can disagree, but I really truly believe that all money does is expose who you really are. I think that,
It just makes you more of what you already were.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So and because here's the thing, there are plenty of there are plenty of athletes that come from less than desirable backgrounds and experiences that just don't behave this way. They
Fair.
just don't. And the
Very fair.
reason why they don't, I believe, is in part because of upbringing. Because, yeah, you can be, there is a certain level of immaturity and all of that, but then you have people that are wise beyond their years. You
Absolutely.
absolutely positively have people that are wise beyond their years. And upbringing plays a major part. It's like you remember in in the Prime docu series when
Mhm.
whichever I don't know if it was Colors, whatever one of the other teams they were great play, and dude was talking smack, and he had his mom in the locker room, and she said, "I raised him right." Right? It's
Mhm.
like there was all of this conversation because whoever the other coach was, like he was taking cheap shots at Prime, and what he was saying, the way that it was interpreted was he was saying that basically he didn't have a decent upbringing, and he was
Mhm.
like, "Nah, I was raised right," and I think that people don't pay enough attention to that because I'll give you a prime example. You said at the beginning you talked about my journey as a mom. I tell people all the time, my son does not walk on water. He's a whole bunch of things, but perfect is not one of them. But
Mhm.
Andre has a saying that he will say to people when it comes to certain things. He says, "You don't know who my parents are?" There are some behaviors that he, and I'm going to say it respectfully because folks be like, anybody saying he's perfect? I just said he don't walk on water. There's some behaviors that he doesn't engage in publicly that he might engage in privately, but he's
Fair.
not engaging in publicly because his family name is important to him and he does not want to be an embarrassment to his family, immature or not. That's got to
Fair.
count for something. And I believe that that is connected to upbringing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like so from a man's perspective, you know, a man with no purpose is like a ship with no rudder.
Just floating around.
If I'm not taught as a man how to find my purpose, how to develop my purpose, and purpose is simply just my passion, my rules, my morals that I follow,
Mm-hmm.
that I stay true to myself with,
Mm-hmm.
right? I talk to young men all the time about this idea of it's not your job to make your purpose fit the world, but more so the world you live in match your
Mm-hmm.
purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Family, friends, partners, if you choose to have kids, all of that must align to your purpose. You
Mm-hmm.
must stay true to you above all else. When you don't stay true to you, when you get knocked off of your square, as we say, your body reacts.
Mm-hmm.
Your body knows when you're not living true to your purpose. Your body knows when you're not living within your means and everything.
Yeah.
And our brain up here will sometimes ignore it, disassociate from it and everything. But in
Mm-hmm.
reality, we know we're not living right. And
Right.
so it's on us to make those changes. But when you don't have that guidance, that leadership, somebody to help
Yeah.
you understand that as a man, it is on you.
Yeah.
It is not the world's responsibility to give you purpose and meaning. It is you to give purpose and meaning to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So for men who struggle with that, we see they get situations where they get opportunity, they get a little bit of power, they get a little bit of money, financial resources, and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And once again, it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier. It's almost as if you're giving a child the keys to a very brand new expensive car.
Right.
They might get lucky and turn it on.
Yeah.
You might get lucky and make a decent career for yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
might get on the road and start going somewhere. You might, stay consistent, get a few
Mm-hmm.
things lined up and whatnot. But eventually,
Eventually.
if you don't stay true to who you are, you veer off the road. You panic. You make mistakes. You make impulsive decisions. You do
Yeah.
whatever comes to mind. And if you
Yeah.
don't keep that part of you in check, like I said, us in this present moment are a combination of many different parts of us.
Mm-hmm.
And certain parts of us should never be allowed to come back in this present moment and make decisions for us
Right.
because they're only looking at it from their perspective of where we were at that point in time, not where we are right now. And so we see a lot of these young athletes get into these positions where sometimes the younger them is almost as if they're a child version of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's making these decisions in real time for them. And
Yeah,
could you imagine a child having to manage millions of dollars, having to
right.
manage a NFL schedule, an NBA schedule,
The
like
demands.
the expectations? Hell,
Yeah.
we see kids crumble the expectations of just getting a honor roll.
And thank you for bringing that up, Ronnie, because I wanted to sort of um, backtrack for a moment. I wanted to talk about this socialization and this recreational piece from a high school perspective because I really, we clinically, right, we're always looking at patterns and themes. We're
Right,
looking at the trajectory that our clients have taken to get from where they were to where they are when we meet them. And I think that a lot of the the reckless behaviors that we see, I believe these behaviors start long before college or the pros. I believe that for some, recklessness and risk taking is a way of life.
right,
We're not saying that don't have fun. Especially kids, you have
right,
fun, but but you also have to have a level of responsibility, even in your immaturity, when it comes to having fun, because there's consequences. There's absolutely positively going to be consequences. When I think about that story that I referenced, it happened several years ago. I want to say it was in Michigan or Ohio or somewhere, where all of those boys from the football team were brought up on legal, charges for sexual assault and what have you, because of the young lady, the girl, I don't know if she was a cheerleader or who she was, but she was passed out drunk, and they were having sex with her, and it's like, you really think you're still getting a full scholarship to college for football? Nobody's going to touch you. They're
right.
not going to touch you if you don't go to jail. They're not going to touch you. So
Mhm.
at a very, very, very early age, because you didn't know how to, you made a choice
Right,
to to go too far in your fun. Well, we were drunk. Well, why were you drunk? You didn't know, and don't get. I mean, plenty of people. Have been drunk before in high school. I was drunk. I'm sorry, mommy. Ah, I was drunk before in high school. But guess what? There were just some things that I didn't do. And the reason why I didn't do them is because even in extreme inebriation, there was a part of my brain that was
mhm.
still functioning that said, there are consequences. And Paulette Lillian Pitts will break your face, your neck, and any other part of your body she feels like breaking if this goes somewhere where it don't need to go. Like
Right,
I think part of the problem, Ronnie, is that, and you talk about it all the time, I think we are living at a time in society where folk just want to do what they want to do the way they want to do it. There's everybody's microwave, gotta have it now, gotta have it now, gotta have it now. And I don't believe that there's a respect or a regard for consequences anymore. And I think that's part of the problem, because we're not saying don't have fun. We're
right.
saying have fun, but you've got to have some temperance, because if you don't, it can cost you everything. And of course, in the most worst case scenario, how many times have we seen athletes lose their lives
Yeah.
because the fun went too far?
I think when hypocrisy outweighs consequences, that's where you lose the respect.
Mm. Say more about that.
I think we live in a country where hypocrisy is at an all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
We see where people who are so-called leaders
Mm-hmm.
contradict themselves, apply
Yeah.
double standards to things.
Yeah.
And so is I have a sociology background. My undergrad was in sociology. So one of the things we talk about in sociology is this idea of the social contract theory, or
Mm-hmm.
where if you can have certain appointed leaders
Mm-hmm.
get the majority of the masses to agree to what they need. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need everybody to agree, but if I can get the majority, if I can get
Yeah.
that 51%,
Mm-hmm.
then either the other 49% will just naturally automatically assimilate to the 51,
Group think.
they'll rebel, You might have
Mm-hmm.
some rebel and stay over. So like, but as long as I have that 51%,
Yeah.
I can move forward.
Yeah.
And so when we see a lot of hypocrisy from our leaders, when we see a lot of hypocrisy in our laws, decision making, things like that,
Mm-hmm.
you start to ask yourself, well, what is the ideology? What is the morals? What are the things that you follow and value? And honestly, it kind of goes back onto individual family systems, individual
Yeah.
communities on how they develop. One
The
of the things I tell
systemic
people
piece.
exactly when I talk to people about politics, look, I'm no politician expert in no way, shape, or form. I
Mm-hmm.
just look at behaviors. My parents always told me believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. And the
Yeah.
half of what I do believe that I see is a lot of inaction, a lot of talking. I see billions of dollars going overseas, but I don't see none of those $1 billion being spent over here. And so, as a clinician, I'm left to think that to this whole idea of the mental health crisis that we're experiencing
Yeah.
is a very fancy way of just saying that no, we have a resource crisis, we have a community
Mm-hmm.
crisis. It's very easy to make mental health the scapegoat in a lot of these situations, but we also know
Mm-hmm.
to be true as clinicians that when you have abundant resources in your communities, when people
Mm-hmm.
actually have options,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times their outlook on their situation is a lot more optimistic than pessimistic. And when a lot less people are depressed and anxious when there's actually options in front of them. But when
Mm-hmm.
you don't have options and resources in front of you or easy to get access to,
Mm-hmm.
you have to survive. And when you have an entire community surviving and fighting for limited resources, what do
Mm-hmm.
we expect?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I mean, so it's like some of these athletes come from them scenarios. Some of these athletes hear about the scenarios. So it's like when you get to a level of professional athletes and things like that, and you have athletes who have a hard time managing, social life and things like that, it's just a microcosm of the society we live in, where you see highly successful people, people with positions of power. When you
Mm-hmm.
have a certain level of power, if you don't have a good regulation system within yourself to
Mm-hmm.
regulate the power that you're given and the power that people have entrusted in you,
Mm-hmm.
if you have the power, who the hell to tell you what you can and can't do?
Ronnie, you know what I read? You said something that brought back to my remembrance a thought that I had during the NFL draft. I remember saying to Eric how impressed I was because there were so many young men in this year's draft class that were so well spoken, that spoke so eloquently about their family and about their upbringing, and they were paying homage to their parents, to their grandparents, and that I think that's a piece of it, right? And don't get me wrong, it is not my intention to be judgmental and critical of someone who's not well spoken, but I wanted to connect that to protocol, right?
Right.
And it reminds me of maybe 3, 4 years ago, there was a draft class. It was a young man that was drafted by Atlanta, I believe. And Deion Sanders was on that year. And this kid, it was like he just went off.
Mm-hmm.
And Prime was like trying to calm him down. And, we understand that you're excited and you're happy, but there's an appropriate way to conduct yourself in X, Y, and Z environments. And just because, Ronnie, just because somebody is growing up impoverished and experiencing a depletion in resources doesn't mean you have to behave in an ignorant fashion. And I know you know that. I'm not insulting
Oh
your
yeah,
intelligence by any stretch.
absolutely.
And what I believe, and because I've seen it happen firsthand, think about it this way. This is the way that I present it to my clients in session. I want you to reflect upon a situation where, for all intents and purposes, all things were equal,
Mm-hmm.
but yet you saw the individuals involved getting completely different results. And the reason why those results are completely different is just because of mindset. It's because of mindset. I believe, and we've talked about this on previous shows, when if I were to, without going too deep into it, I believe that part of the problem that we're seeing could be attributed to the residual effects of slavery because people are, in some cases, people are not physically in shackles and chains anymore, but they're so enslaved in their mind
Mhm.
that they, the way that I said it the other day was, you can take the person out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the person. But just because you come from the hood doesn't mean you have to behave like it. And I
Yeah.
think that that's the problem that so many people run into because we live in a universe that is abundant. We
Hmm.
live in a world that is abundant, and we understand just by designing this world that 1% of the world's population controls like 90% of the world's wealth or whatever that statistic is.
Hmm.
But I'll put it this way. I was in 6th grade, Ronnie, when I said to my grandfather that I wanted to go to college. And I didn't grow up poor. I didn't grow up poor. I grew up humble, but I didn't grow up poor. But my grandparents grew up poor.
Hmm.
And my grandfather had an 8th grade education and my grandmother had a 10th grade education. And when I said to my grandfather in 6th grade, Ronnie, that I wanted to go to college, he said that they didn't have the money to send me to
Hmm.
college based on his interpretation, not being aware of the abundant resources that could make it possible for me to go to college. It wasn't a lack of resources, it was a lack of knowledge regarding access to those resources. But this is what he said that has been at the root of my journey my entire life. He said, "Baby, we don't have money to send you to college. Your brain is going to be your ticket out of Salem." And I sit here today as Dr. Lauren Denise Pitts Bounds, George and Paulette's baby, Dorothy and Lester's grandbaby, because somebody said, "This is your ticket out." And then fast forward, I'm a researcher. I've been a researcher. Oh, word? So, and I back in the day, this is gonna shock you, I don't fall out the chair. Back in the day, all these websites now that you have Petersons.com and Bold.com and all these places you can go to get information on scholarship monies and grants and all of this stuff. We
Hmm.
had this great big book. I swear this thing was this thick. It was called Lovejoy's College Directory. And you physically, Ronnie, had to flip through them thousands of pages to
Hmm.
look up information on colleges in the whole 9 yards. But I had to choose to find the resources because I knew that I wanted to experience life differently than what I had seen going on around me every day.
I think two things can be true.
Okay.
I think two things can be true. I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, and we obviously know not everybody who comes from impoverished situations remain in that situation, right? Because
Yeah.
everybody's
Or in that
perspective
mindset.
is different, right? My only point to all that is that to your point, like you said, your grandparents created a web of safety and security for you to have curiosity, and with curiosity, you're allowed to explore.
That's
They
right.
didn't create a skeptic out of you, more so they created a curious version of you. And with that
That's right.
curiosity, it is you have allowed yourself to reap all the benefits and rewards of your curiosity,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Had you been given a mind of skepticism, maybe not to say that you wouldn't have still reached the level of success and fulfillment that you have,
Yeah.
but so and then like you said, what you said, you found a book. What did I say before the show started?
People don't read books. You sure enough said it.
if you
There's
if you
so
want to know
many
the
answers in books and people won't
if you
read
want to
them.
know the secrets of the world, pick up a book.
Yeah, but nope, folk want to go to social media. Ronnie, can we take 5-ish more minutes? You got 5-ish more minutes?
I got 5. Yeah, I got
Okay,
go to
that's fine.
work. So
I
yeah.
just real quick, I wanted to touch on the socialization and the recreational aspect of our athletes through the lens of dating. Because, and you've touched on this, it's so crazy stuff. You've touched on, the role
Mm.
that socializing from a dating perspective has played in your life. And I think I just wanted to say that again, we're not saying don't have fun, but if you are out here doing grown folk things come with grown folk responsibilities. And I am here to tell you, as someone who was doing grown folk things and ended up with grown folk responsibilities in undergrad, trying to navigate sports, parenthood, and academia is a butt kicker.
Oh
Hats
yeah.
off to my son's father, who I got pregnant with Andre his freshman year at William and Mary. So literally, ba-da-da-ding, ba-da-ba-da-da-ding. He done went through summer camp. He's only a couple of months into his freshman year. So he's 18 years old. 18. 18, Ronnie. He's 18 years old, and his 19-year-old girlfriend calls and was like, I gotta tell you something. And it was, what's the matter? Something wrong? I mean, I don't know if it's wrong, but we gonna have a baby, aren't we? Right. And I said, well, what do you want to do? Because I didn't want to back him into a corner. And he said, you can have this baby, you can have this baby, or you can have this baby. No other options were ever discussed. We were at 19 and 18, his freshman year on a full football scholarship at William and Mary, trying to bang out them grades, managing all of the adjustment, the demands, the travel, all of that, all of that. It was 3 weeks before I was scheduled to go back my sophomore year in undergrad, Ronnie, that I found out that I was pregnant. The moral to the story is, if you're going to do grown folk things, protect yourself, because the adult responsibilities that come from being pregnant, or sexually transmitted diseases, or legal issues like DUIs, and all of those things that come from making adult decisions can turn your life upside down and make what should be some of the most amazing years of your life unnecessarily hard. Undergrad, people say, I don't know who said undergrad is the best 4 years of your life, Ronnie. They ain't never lied. Woo! Undergrad was all that soda, rebate, and a bag of chips. And that was struggling in teenage mom mode, getting good grades and still trying to enjoy being a semi kid and a mom and adult. But it don't have to be that hard, Ronnie.
It don't.
Just make responsible decisions. Be
Yeah.
responsible and have fun so that you can make
I
the most
promise
out of
y'all,
this experience.
being in a relationship is easier than being a parent.
Facts.
I don't know where in the world we got that twisted, where being a parent will be more of a better choice than being together. But I can let you know right now.
Yeah.
At 18, oh, look, I have no shame in saying, and from about 17 to about 22, I bought more Plan B than anybody should ever buy.
Well,
Like I ain't afraid. I ain't ashamed to say it.
that's true.
I'm gonna let y'all know right now. If you don't want to keep paying $60 a pop to avoid a mistake,
But it's not a mistake when you
I
keep doing it. When you keep
I had
doing it, it's not a mistake.
I had an old guy tell me, shoot that club up, you're gonna catch a body one day. So
Mhm.
I tell all my young men, if you ain't ready, hey
Young
look,
women too.
I'd have
It's not just
I'd have,
on y'all, Ronnie.
I'd have been nah, it's on us. It's on us. I don't put that on women at all. It's on us. You don't get us pregnant. We get you pregnant.
But
It'll
it
never
takes two.
change. It do, but here's the thing. I made that choice. If I go up in there unprotected, I made that choice. Now, unless you put a gun in my head, that's a whole different story. I made that choice. I made them choices when I was young, going up in there, knowing what I was doing, and then give myself that anxiety, give myself that stress.
Yeah.
I tell young men all the time, you think you know anxiety? Wait for that text message that they don't start the period and see what you know about anxiety. You know, kids talking about anxiety. You don't even know what anxiety is.
That's right.
What? Anywho,
Yeah.
happy
Happy
Mother's Day
Mother's Day,
weekend,
everybody.
everybody. Happy Mother's Day, Dr. Pitts. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Happy early birthday, Andre. Happy early birthday to my wife, Neek, that I'm about to go relieve now so I can be a father for the rest of the day.
Amen.
But everybody have a beautiful, safe weekend out there, and we'll check y'all back in 2 weeks.
Peace. Bye, everybody.